Right, so welcome to lesson 4 of Zoella. This one I'm going to do as a screen recording because postmodernism is where things get quite complicated. So you can see the learning objective there. We need to understand that which we can't understand. The whole concept of postmodernism is that it is impossible to fully explain. So arguably, if you can get the gist of this, you will have enough to answer the exam. And the key thing is we are focusing just on Jean Baudrillard, who I think mostly we get. So when I post this, you'll be watching it on YouTube. You need to make sure that you have a look in the description below because there's a couple of links I'm going to ask you to watch. There'll also be a link to Mrs. Fisher talking about postmodernism, because if I explain it, she may explain it better. I'm not ashamed to say that, the way I explain it might not fully help you understand it. Somebody else might give you that golden nugget that you need. So let's get started. So, tasks. Anywhere you see a question, I'd like you to answer this on your blog. If you have any problems making up your blog, there is now a video in the AS forum on Moodle. So if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see a list of forums, chat rooms, and Dropboxes, and you have an AS Media forum. The latest post in there, or the second to latest post by this time, is how to set up your blog, as well as how to do the Zoella tasks. So there is a long question at the end of this, but just do one little paragraph, 5-ish minutes. That's all I need, okay? Again, I've said this a few times, if you are not doing these tasks, you are going to fall behind. You will not be able to pass A2. Simple as that. You will lose a third of your marks into the second paper. You'll be looking at going from a C to a D to a fail. You've got to make sure you are doing these, please. And I will do everything I can to help you by marking your work and checking that the quality's there in this strange time that we're in. Not ideal, but we're doing our best, aren't we? So, little kind of mini starter point here is to watch the clip here, which is going to be linked below on the YouTube video, but I'll also link it on the AS forum. So watch this clip and answer these questions. What does the explosion of media mean for us in terms of our ability to understand the world at large? So all the things we're seeing in the world around us, constant messages, the way we're losing our kind of reality to hyperreality, what's that mean for us? How can that affect us as people? Maybe list me a few of the negative things that could happen if you are just seeing hyperrealities. Why, according to Baudrillard, do we consume media products at all? If we know that they are fake, if we know they are copies of copies, those simulacrums and simulacra we've talked about, why do we want media products if we know they're fake? And then, how is social media accelerating this process? How is that meaning we are saturated by the media? What does social media do, or how does it target us? That means it saturates us, coats us and covers us in media, constantly giving us media content. So, pause this, watch the video, answer these questions on your blog. Just a sentence each is fine. So, Baudrillard. Go back into the resources you've got on the theorists. If you scroll down on the Moodle, you'll find the theorist posters, you'll find all the content you need. How could we apply Jean Baudrillard's ideas in relation to vloggers? So, for example, with Zoella, to what extent is she a real personality? Think about who Zoella is as a character to Zoe Sugg. That's who she really is. She's a real person called Zoe Sugg, and yet Zoella is a character she plays. How far do you think Zoella is a real person and a real representation of who Zoe Sugg is? How far do you think she is mediating that? Give me a quick sentence on that, please. Number 1 here, if we're looking at meta-narrative. Again, you might want to Google this, but that bigger, wider, overarching narrative. And simulacrum, key hint there is that it's a copy of a copy. The simulacrum now hides not the truth, but the fact that there is none. That is to say, the continuation of nothingness. Simulacrum is a copy of a copy. So when you are seeing somebody who's referenced something, when a TikTok celebrity is doing a dance by another TikTok celebrity, we actually start to lose track of where that came from. If we look at something like a meme, people are copying, and you'll see memes that reference other memes. And actually we start to lose track of where the reality is. And some of these things come from quite dark places sometimes. So that is the simulacrum, a copy of a copy, and often we kind of lose track of what's behind it all. I realise that your brain is probably melting. You might want to pause this a moment if you are and come back. So here we are. Your brain's hurting and it's actually going to get a bit more tricky. So I'm going to attach a link as well to an introduction to postmodernism, which will be on the Moodle under the AS Media forum. and have a read through and just see what you can comprehend. It is really complicated, but do your best, okay? Don't go crazy. If you don't understand something, skip and move on. Please don't sit there and melt your mind, okay? Just read it, try to comprehend as much as you can. It should help explain it, but I'll put a few different videos on about postmodernism, so hopefully one of them will click and you'll get some ideas. So, you might get a question like this in next year's paper. To what extent is Zoella a postmodern text? Which on the surface is fairly straightforward. We could talk about her as a hyperreality. We could talk about here, her Girl Online book. It's by Zoe Sugg, but it says the first novel by Zoella, so she's kind of playing a character, which is a copy of a copy. You could say she, to an extent, is a simulacra. And here's your task. Using the guide I've given you, go back to the PowerPoint, read through Baudelaire's theory as well, and write me a paragraph on your blog on how the digital revolution affected representations in the media. Use Zoella as your example. Think about her as a hyperreal character, Zoella versus Zoe Sugg. You might want to do a bit of research into who she is. And if you could please watch one Zoella video and use that as an example. Any video you can find, anyone that catches your interest. I realise for many of you, Zoella will not catch your interest at all, but try and find one that's vaguely interesting to you and make a few notes on how that video might suggest the digital revolution has affected the representations we see. Maybe think about where she's doing things that other YouTubers do. Maybe think about where she's copying other people. Maybe think about where she's mediating a fake personality, anything like that, which will definitely help you.